Hi, it's Mr. Andersen, and this is Thinking in Structure and Function, Level 5, Molecular Level Structures. After watching this video, you should be able to identify molecular level structures and functions in something like designed aerogel or the coronavirus. But we're going to start by looking for molecular level structure and function in a chemical that is used in just regular disposable diapers, and then you'll have a chance to do the same thing with Gore-Tex. And so when you're trying to identify molecular level structures, system will be incredibly important. So the system needs to be defined first, and we also have to talk about at what level are we within the system. So we're going to start obviously with the macroscopic, or what we can see with the naked eye, but then we're going to move our system to the molecular level. In other words, what do we see at the atomic level? What are we looking for? Obviously we're looking for structure and function again. How are things made? How are they built? What do they look like? And then how do they behave? And so we're going to see how those are connected at these different levels of system. Remember, the object that represents structure and function are going to be these two blocks that are connected together to show you how structure fits function and function depends on structure. But you can't really fully understand something like this unless you can look at it at the atomic level. And at the atomic level, we might see things in here that would tell us why this is brown or why this behaves in the way that it does that we wouldn't be able to see at the macroscopic level. So let me clean this up and then we'll get started. So we're going to start by looking at a chemical that's found in disposable diapers. And so what I did is cut open a diaper, and then I took this white powder, and you can see it just kind of sitting in this beaker. This white powder is sitting in here, and that's what's used to absorb a lot of the water. And so what I've got in here is a little bit of water in this test tube, and I'm just going to dump it into the beaker. And what you'll start to see is that that chemical is absorbing the water. And so instead of having the water flow around, you can see it just sits in the beaker like that. And so the point of this chemical, obviously, is to make it so the diaper is just not sopping wet. And so what we're going to do, we've already kind of looked at it at the macroscopic level, what we can see with the naked eye. But then we're going to zoom our way into the microscopic and then even to the atomic to really understand what's going on at the molecular level. And so for starters, let's just look at the macroscopic level, and I'm going to identify what I think are the structure and the function. So let me write that out. Oops, before I get there, let's define the system. So the system is going to be this chemical that's found in the diaper, and now let me identify both the structure and the function at the macroscopic level. So the structure at the macroscopic, all I see is this white powder. And so that's all I can write for the structure. As far as function goes, it absorbs water. But as I'm doing this, what I really don't know is how. It doesn't really tell me anything about what's going on at the level of the structure and how that contributes to the function. And so what we would do then is change the scale. And so from the macroscopic, I could go to the microscopic. And this is what it looked like microscopically. So I looked at a microscope. This is before we added water, and this is after the water was added. And what I found with that is that doesn't tell us anything either. And so what we have to do now is go to a lower level. We have to look at the atomic level. And so to do that, I don't have any kind of a microscope that could do that. So we have to go online and figure out what this chemical is. And so this chemical is called SAP. It stands for super absorbent polymer. And so what I can see now is structure and function here. And so this is before the water is added. You can see that there is a tiny chemical and then there's water around the outside. And this is after the water is added. And so I can see something changing there. But what level am I at? Now I'm at the molecular level. And so let me try to figure out what's going on at the molecular level as far as structure and function goes. Okay, so at the molecular level, what I've written down is the structure are these long connected molecules, and they have a negative charge. To show you where that is, if we look at the actual model, you can see that there are these long threads, which must be molecules, and then attached to that, we have these little charged, it looks like carbon and 2 oxygens that are attached. So I could write that down as the structure. Now I have to figure out what's going on at the function level. So as far as function goes, what I'm saying here is that the water fits within the molecule. And so you could see before that the water was on the outside, but the molecule was really, really small. And now the water seems to be inside. So the shape of that molecule is the same, it just has water on the inside. So I'm saying the water fits within the molecules and it's possibly attracted to the charged portions. And so what have I done? You can see at the level of the macroscopics, we didn't have an answer to the white powder and how it absorbs water. But by looking at the molecular level structure, we can come up with a molecular level function, which kind of gets rid of this question mark. Now we know what's going on in the phenomena itself. So what I'm going to do is clean up, and then I'm going to give you a different example, and you're going to try to, on your own, figure out what's going on at the molecular level. Okay, for the second example, we have an old tennis shoe, and so this is a Gore-Tex hiking running shoe, and what that means is that it has a fabric or a waterproof fabric on it. And so we've cut a piece of that off. So let me define the system. So the system is this Gore-Tex waterproof fabric. This is what it looks like here. So what I'd love to have you do is take a minute, pause the video, and there's some thinking slides down below. You could use that or a piece of paper and try to write out, there's some images there, both of what it looks like at the microscopic level and at the molecular level. So you could try to see what structure and function you see macroscopically and then at the molecular level. Then unpause the video, come back, and we'll see how our thinking matches up. Okay, the first thing I would do is macroscopically, so we're looking at it at the naked eye, I would try to describe what do I see as far as a structure here, and then what do I get as a function. So let me write that out. So the structure is a tightly woven blue fabric, and then if I think about the function, is that it's waterproof. In other words, if water gets on the surface, it can't get through and get your foot wet. That doesn't tell me anything as far as how that works. What's going on as far as the structure goes is still a big question mark. And so what we have to start doing is we have to start looking or changing our scale to better understand what's going on. And so what you generally do is you say, okay, at the macroscopic level, I'm not getting a clue. So what does it look like at the microscopic level? So if I look at it with a microscope, let's take a look at that. And so this is my microscope, this blue one. What I found is that it just looks more tightly woven. I can see how the fibers are kind of winding around each other, but it doesn't tell me necessarily why it's waterproof. And then I downloaded a photo of it at the electron microscope level. And so it's also like lots of little like weaving in here, but doesn't tell me why it's waterproof yet. And so I would say I don't have an answer. So now we have to go to the atomic level. And so a lot of the time to go to the atomic level, you have to get a model or you have to get an image from the internet to figure out what's going on. And that's what I did. And so this is a model of how Gore-Tex works. And so this would be at the molecular level. And so what I have in the first model is a water drop, and then it looks like there's this lattice of all these fibers, and then there's water vapor. And so now that I have that, I have a way to start thinking about what's going on as far as structure and function goes at the molecular level. So first of all, let me write out what the structure would be. So as far as microscopic, or rather molecular level structure, I said that there's a microscopic web made of a web of thread-like molecules. And so what I'm really trying to get at is that the Gore-Tex is actually made of these tiny, tiny, tiny molecules that are woven into this molecular thread. So that's telling me the structure, but it doesn't tell me what it does or how that works. I have to kind of figure that out. Let me write down what I think the function is. Okay, so I'm thinking that the large water drops, so these large water drops cannot move through the Gore-Tex until it evaporates. In other words, it's a liquid, and then when it becomes a gas, it's small enough so it can fit between those little threads. And so what makes this nice is that I could never understand Gore-Tex as a water fabric. How does the water sit on here and not move through into the foot unless I really have a molecular level model? And so if you don't understand something in science, you have to change your scale. Go small or go big. And so now that I've done that, I would encourage you to use the thinking slides below to try something like this on your own. I've got an example here with aerogel. You could look at that. It's a really cool kind of material. Or you could even look at the infection of the virus that causes the coronavirus. Those are things that you could look for and try to figure out what's going on at the structure and then how that fits the function. So that's structure and function level 5, and I hope that's helpful.